Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. If you like this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. Put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my top play in Major League Baseball, that's my Rundown Best Bet. You can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alright, here we go. Here are the games for Tuesday, Major League Baseball. First up, the New York Yankees taking on the Detroit Tigers. Carlos Carrasco and Tarik Skubal are your starters. Skubal didn't have his best start in his season debut against the Dodgers, but was a lot better in his next game against the Mariners, even though he took the loss in that one. Right now, he's 0-2 on the season, an ERA just below 6. I still think when you look at that last game against the Mariners, 1 out shy of a quality start, 8 strikeouts and 5 2/3. The control was still a little bit off in that one, but even in the Yankees have hit lefties well this season. We know Andrew Heaney, a lefty, just faced the Yankees and pitched very, very well. That was the most recent lefty starter that the Yankees have faced. I think Skubal can put together a quality start in this one. I think the Tigers back him up early as well. I don't really love Carlos Carrasco as a starting pitcher right now. I think it's a lopsided pitching matchup in favor of the Tigers. So give me Detroit in this one on the money line. You could take him in the first 5 if you don't want to sweat the bullpen. I do think they get the full game win as well. Next up, the Chicago White Sox taking on the Cleveland Guardians. We're going to see Shane Smith and Ben Lively as the starters. I do think this is actually a decent matchup for the White Sox here. We took them plus the 1.5 runs on Sunday against Detroit. They were very close to the outright win. They were just a blown save away. They had a 3-1 lead for most of the game. In the 9th inning, they just couldn't hold on. But I think they compete in this game. And, Shane Smith pitched well in his season debut. The control was off, definitely 4 walks and 5 2/3. Not going to get it done, but he had a good ground ball ratio, above 50% in that game, and he was, against the Guardians, you're not going to, miss a ton of bats and earn a ton of strikeouts. If you're able to keep the ball on the ground and limit sharp contact, that's how you're going to be able to get out. So I think Shane Smith actually a decent matchup against this Guardians lineup, and Ben Lively, I've mentioned over the last couple of years, I don't love him as a starting pitcher. He does give up a lot of sharp contact. I think the White Sox can find a bloop and a blast here and there to score enough runs to compete, if not win the game outright. I'm going to go with Chicago plus 1.5 runs on the money line in this one. Our next game, we have the St. Louis Cardinals and the Pittsburgh Pirates. Sonny Gray and Paul Skeens, great pitching matchup in this one. I think it's a great game on paper to watch, but not my favorite from a betting perspective. I am going to lean towards the under. We know Paul Skeens, one of the best pitchers in baseball, off to a great start this season. I think he pitches well. And on the flip side, Sonny Gray, while he struggled in spring training and wasn't his best in his last game, this is a Pittsburgh Pirates team that's just not hitting right into pitching very well to start the year with a team OPS at 613, isolated power ranked 26th in the league. Strikeout rate and walk rate aren't too bad, but I still just don't trust this Pirates offense consistently. I'm going to lean towards the under here in Cardinals Pirates. Next up, the Toronto Blue Jays taking on the Boston Red Sox. We're going to see Jose Barrios and Garrett Crochet as the starters. Garrett Crochet pitching very well in his first few games as a Red Sox. He just got inked up to a $170 million contract extension. Feeling pretty good after that 8-inning, 8 strikeout, shutout baseball against the Orioles in a 3-0 win. However, this is the first home start at Fenway Park of the season for Crochet. In very limited work in his career, he has struggled at Fenway. Very, very limited small sample size. But last year was one of those games, and he really struggled at Fenway, giving up 4 runs in 2 innings. And not every lefty can pitch very well at Fenway Park. It's a very, very hitter-friendly ballpark, especially when teams are stacking their lineups with a lot of right-handed batters facing the lefty, and you have the Green Monster to deal with, and the Blue Jays certainly have the players to be able to do so, led by Vladimir Guerrero Jr., one of the best hitters in baseball. So I think that Crochet, I don't think he's going to get crushed necessarily. I think he could be in trouble, though. And when you look at Barrios on the other side, somebody that pitched a lot better in his second start to the season. He pitched well at Fenway Park in his lone outing there last year. You look at his career numbers at Fenway, he's had quite a bit of work there because he's pitched in the American League. Not the best numbers overall, 46 2/3. He does have a strikeout per inning, but the ERA is a little bit steep. I still like the fact, though, that he keeps the ball on the ground. I think he's going to get some run support against Crochet, and at this kind of price, I like their chances, the Blue Jays, to pick up the W. So I'm going to go with the money. I'll go with the Toronto Blue Jays on the money line. Next up, the Los Angeles Angels taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. Kyle Hendricks and Shane Baz are your starters. This is another situation where there's no doubting that Baz pitched really well in his first start of the season. He's a good option in this Rays rotation. However, at this kind of price and the way that the Angels have hit so far, you look at that weekend series, they had a great offensive showing against the Guardians, a lot of power in the lineup. It's tough to go against the Angels at this kind of price. Now, do I think the Angels will tail off at some point? We've seen that the last few years where they have hot starts to the season and then they finish, well below 500 potentially. But this team is, playing great baseball offensively. The bullpen's been good enough. They've got some good high leverage guys, Kenley Jansen, Ben Joyce. So if this is a close game late, you don't necessarily feel like you're dead like we've seen with Angels teams in the past. So I think there's a good shot here with the Angels at this kind of price. I'm going to go with the Angels on the money line this one. Next up, we have the Miami Marlins taking on the New York Mets. We're going to see Connor Gillespie and Clay Holmes on the mound in this one. I do think Clay Holmes is a good option in this Mets rotation for now. He's not going to pitch too deep into ball games. This is his first season as a full-time starter. But I still think, 9 1/3 innings, 10 strikeouts, no home runs given up. As long as his control's fine, I think he'll pitch well this season. I think the Mets can get to Gillespie for a couple of runs. I do think it's going to be a pretty close game early on. The Mets will find some runs late against this not-so-great Marlins bullpen. So I'm going to go with the Mets in this one on the run line, laying the 1.5 runs. Next up, the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the Atlanta Braves. Great matchup in this one. Two rivals in the NL East, two great starting pitchers. NL Cy Young finalists from last year, Zach Wheeler, Chris Sale. Sale hasn't been the sharpest to start the year, but also, 10 innings, 12 strikeouts, only one walk, only one home run. The per nines are exactly where you'd want him to be. I think Sale's still going to be a great option in this Braves rotation going forward. But Zach Wheeler, it's tough to go against him when you look at his numbers. 13 innings, 18 strikeouts, just a couple of mistake pitches. He had the one against Keibert Ruiz in the first game against the Nationals, another home run given up in 7 innings against the Rockies, but 10 strikeouts, no walks. He was very sharp. Now, that was against two of the weaker lineups in the National League. You step up against the Braves, where at least their top 5 hitters are pretty much all all-star candidates. The bottom of the lineup, though, is where I have my worries with the Braves right now. I think the Phillies have the big-time advantage there. I also like Philadelphia's bullpen a little bit more on paper, so I'm going to side with the Phillies in this game. But this is a close one. This should be a great matchup. Playoff-style atmosphere. Give me the Phillies and a lean in this one on the money line. Next up, we have the Minnesota Twins taking on the Kansas City Royals. We're going to see Cole Ragans and Pablo Lopez as the projected starters. Both of these starting pitchers have good numbers against the current roster on the other side. Lopez in about 130 plate appearances, high strikeout rate, low walk rate, low xWOBA. Cole Ragans, 63 plate appearances, 33% strikeout rate, and a 244 xWOBA. I expect both pitchers to pitch well. I do think Ragans, though, has the better matchup against the Twins team and has really struggled against lefties to start 2025. I'm going to side with the Royals in this one. At home, I think they can find a couple of runs on Lopez, maybe find a couple of runs on a struggling Twins bullpen. I still think highly of this Twins bullpen, but to start the year, it's been mismanaged a bit in my opinion. I'm going to go with the Royals in this one on the money line. Next up, we have the Texas Rangers taking on the Chicago Cubs. We've got Jameson Taillon and Patrick Corbin on the mound. Patrick Corbin, a fan favorite here on Ron's Rundown over the years, alongside some other trusty veteran lefties like Dallas Keuchel and Madison Bumgarner. We've done quite well in Corbin games over the seasons, and I do think we fade him in this spot because while I could see Corbin finding a decent role in this Rangers pitching staff, this is his first outing in general this season. He did not pitch in spring training, did not have a start in AAA, even though he's with AAA. I just can't imagine we see an amazing outing here from Corbin against a red-hot Cubs lineup that's been one of the best lineups in baseball. Tucker's been one of the best players in baseball to start the year. I just think that the Cubs get to Corbin early. I think Taillon, who definitely bounced back in his second start, can deliver a decent outing in this one. I got to go with the Cubs in this one on the run line. Next up, the Milwaukee Brewers taking on the Colorado Rockies. Freddie Peralta and Kyle Freeland are your starters. Freddie Peralta has great numbers in his career at Coors Field, and he pitched there last year. He had an excellent start. He's got great numbers against the current Rockies hitters. 82 plate appearances, a 41.5% strikeout rate. That is through the roof. A low walk rate to go with it. I think Peralta pitches well, and Kyle Freeland's had a great start to the season himself. I still think, though, that this Rockies bullpen is one of the worst in baseball. I think the Brewers will find a few runs off of Freeland and add a few against the Rockies. I think this is going to be, an interesting series. Last year's series between these two, back and forth games, no lead was safe. There were some really exciting games. I think that's going to be the case in this series overall. But at least this first game, I do think it'll be all Milwaukee. I'm going to take the Brewers on the money line and run line. Next up, we have the Orioles and the Diamondbacks. We're going to see Charlie Morton and Merrill Kelly on the mound in this one. Now, two veterans that have struggled so far. Kelly gave up 9 runs in that last game against the Yankees. He was kind of in a tough spot because the Diamondbacks really didn't want to chew up a lot of bullpen in that type of game. So he was out there for 3 2/3, 9 runs, 3 homers. For me, while Charlie Morton's also struggled with a 9.72 ERA, I do think he's the better option because his expected numbers are, a lot better, and his per nines are just a lot sharper. He still has a ton of strikeouts this season. The home runs haven't been too much of a problem. I know he gave up 2 in the last game, but only 3 walks to go with it. He's just given up a lot of base hits and some sharp contact to go with it, and they've turned into runs. While Merrill Kelly, 3 bombs in those 9 innings with 7 walks to go with it, only 3 strikeouts. I just think that especially without Ketel Marte in the lineup, the Diamondbacks are at a disadvantage here. I'm going to go with the Orioles on the money line in this one at Chase Field. Next up, the Houston Astros taking on the Seattle Mariners. No official starter right now for Houston. It was going to be Framber Valdez, but he is battling an illness, so it's very unclear right now if the Astros are going to go with Framber or not. Luis Castillo should be going for the Mariners. I don't love this game, especially with the lack of information. I would lean towards Seattle, but I really don't love it. I mean, Castillo has been, for me, I didn't love what I saw from him in spring training. I don't love the fact that he hasn't missed a lot of bats so far this season. However, he does have good numbers in his career against the current Astros lineup, and if the Astros have to go with more of a bullpen game in this spot, I do think they struggle. So that's why I'll lean towards Seattle for now. If Framber pitches, I think I would lean towards the under. Framber's got pretty good numbers against the Mariners in his career at a pitcher-friendly ballpark. I think he can bounce back from a tough outing in his last one. I'll lean towards the under and Seattle in this one, but not my favorite game. Next up, we have the Giants and the Reds. Nick Lodolo and Landon Roop are your starters. Landon Roop, a 6.75 ERA on paper after that first start against the Astros, but I thought he pitched a lot better than that ERA may suggest. He had 8 strikeouts in 4 innings. His control was a little bit off. He had the 4 walks given up, but he struggled more towards the end of his outing. He was really sharp at the beginning, and the Giants were able to give him some good run support. I think it's going to be the case here. I mean, the Giants have good numbers against lefties to start the season. Number 6 in baseball in isolated power. Strikeout rate's a little bit steep, but I like the way the San Francisco team's playing. I think they have the big-time bullpen advantage and the offensive advantage. We know the Reds have really struggled, or really been inconsistent, more so. We've seen some great games from Cincinnati, and then we see them get shut out in 35-plus innings. I think we got to go with the Giants in this one on the money line at home. And the final game we're talking about for the Tuesday card in Major League Baseball, it's going to be the San Diego Padres and the Athletics. We're going to see Dylan Cease and Jeffrey Springs on the mound in this contest. Dylan Cease, I think, is a good option for San Diego in this game. He bounced back after his not-so-great season debut against the Braves by pitching 6 1/3 of 1-run ball against the Guardians, 7 strikeouts to go with it. Jeffrey Springs was sharp in his first start of the year, did struggle a bit in that last game, his first home start of the season against the Cubs, and the Padres have good numbers against lefties to start the season, top 15 in OPS and ISO, low strikeout rate, high walk rate to go with it. I'm going to go with the Padres in this game on the money line and run line on the road. And that's it. Those are the games for Tuesday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Romanelli. Good luck.